Welcome back to Inside Games, the only gaming news channel brave enough to call Activision Blizzard's pending $18 million sexual discrimination settlement a joke.
Yeah, except jokes are supposed to be funny, and this is just sad.
Yeah, you're right.
We've talked about it before, but damn it. Whoa, Nelly, is it a big slap in the face to anyone whose entire lives or careers were negatively affected by Activision Blizzard's pervasive sexual discrimination.
Luckily, we are not the only ones bravely upset by the ordeal, as the Wall Street Journal reports on March 31st that 4 U.S. senators actually sent a letter to the United States Federal Trade Commission, or the FTC, asking them to closely scrutinize the pending acquisition over concerns that Activision Blizzard's executives will get to dodge any meaningful accountability for their wrongdoing.
Another day in America. Sun rises and some old white dude gets richer.
Yeah.
This comes on the heels of an approved $18 million settlement between Activision Blizzard and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or EEOC, that was revealed on March 29th. The settlement would provide monetary relief to eligible claimants and ostensibly completely close the book on any current and future sexual harassment claims.
Well, that's neat and tidy if you're Activision Blizzard, of course, it always is. And completely frustrating if you happen to be anybody else, including the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing, or the DFEH, who is also suing Activision Blizzard due to their systemic sexual discrimination issues.
Yeah, there's this ongoing slap fight between California and federal agencies over who gets to slap Activision Blizzard's butt and how much. They really want to get in there and get that paddling in, which I appreciate, but we'll get into that in a second.
First, the letter, and for that we go to our Washington correspondent, Charlotte. Charlotte, you there?
I'm here, Bruce, and it's bedlam out here. Letters are flying left and right. I just saw punctuation knock a grown man to the ground. I haven't seen anything like it in my 5 minutes or so as a correspondent's correspondent.
Truly historic times we live in.
Yes, indeed. The letter causing all the mayhem came from Senators Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Cory Booker, and Sheldon Whitehouse. The body of the letter, posted in full by Axios' Stephen Totilo, itemizes Activision Blizzard's extensive list of employee mistreatment, including their frat boy culture, widespread sexual discrimination of women, and knowing actions by Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick to obscure and minimize the awareness of those discriminatory issues. And since the only real consequences facing Activision Blizzard and its executives is the previously mentioned paltry $18 million settlement, the letter says, quote, "This lack of accountability, despite shareholders, employees, and the public calling for Kotick to be held responsible for the culture he created, would be an unacceptable result of the proposed Microsoft acquisition."
All right, so despite being entirely true, because that quote is entirely true, and honestly reflects a lot of how I feel about this, but there's still an issue with that, isn't there?
Yeah, unfortunately, as pointed out by Legal Analysis by Richard Hogue, this letter is being sent to the FTC, who has no real legal authority to prevent mergers based on employee mistreatment. The FTC's legal authority is to prevent monopolies to protect consumers, not to interrupt acquisitions to punish misbehaving executives.
Seems like that part of the letter is more for popular political appeal than asking the FTC to exercise legal authority it actually has in preventing this acquisition.
Yeah, that said, though, there is a different part of the letter that tries to plead a case that is more tailored to the FTC. What's that all about?
Yeah, they try to bait the hook for the FTC a little bit more. It would be the last line in the letter that reads, quote, "If the FTC determines that the transaction is likely to enhance monopsony power and worsen the negotiating position between workers and the parties to this deal, we urge you to oppose it."
Monopsony? I honestly have never heard that word before. Were you supposed to say Monopoly here, Charlotte?
You can't just put Sony and Monopoly and call that a word.
Monopsony, Xbox. No, it is monopsony. It is a similar but different idea than Monopoly. It represents a market dominated by a single buyer. So rather than Microsoft's merger with Activision Blizzard being a monopoly, or making it so that there's not enough competition for consumers, a monopsony would mean there's no competition for employers, basically meaning that mistreated employees at Activision Blizzard would have no one else to work for. Unlike employer protections, the FTC does actually have legal authority to prevent acquisitions that would lead to a monopsony. However,
yeah, again, Legal Analysis from Richard Hogue finds this particular argument unlikely to be persuasive, since Microsoft would be picking up about 10,000 employees by acquiring Activision Blizzard, but that's out of an estimated 300,000 jobs in the video game development sector, and that's in the United States alone. So even post-acquisition, Microsoft would be far from the only shop in town when it comes to being a video game developer employer.
That makes a lot of sense. Ultimately, Hogue finds that the letter doesn't really make a compelling case insofar as the FTC's authority is concerned, which means it's really not likely to amount to much here. He does note that nobody is immune from politics, not even the FTC. So if there's enough negativity towards the acquisition, then it could still move the needle away from a smooth approval.
I better start posting some inflammatory memes then.
You were doing that anyways.
Yeah, you're right, but now it's for a cause, Bruce.
Now they're focused.
Yeah. My shitposting laser's been focused.
Ah!
Activision Blizzard released a statement because what else is a corporation going to do in this circumstance? In response to the senator's letter on March 31st, laying out the now standard spread of disclaimers and reminders. Of those, they say that ABK has and continues to make positive changes. The acquisition proceedings have not interrupted that process, and that Microsoft has reviewed and is supportive of all the changes being made.
Yeah, the statement also reminds us that CEO Bobby Kotick, the man of the hour, has reduced his salary to the California state minimum of $62,500 for the year and, quote, will not be awarded any bonuses or equity grants until the Workplace Responsibility Committee of the Activision Blizzard Board of Directors has determined that Activision Blizzard has made appropriate progress towards achievement of the transformational gender-related goals and other commitments described in such announcement. I'm sorry, Bobby.
Great job.
Yes! Way to go, Workplace Responsibility Committee. Wow, what's it like doing anything? Did you guys exist before, or were you just like hanging out?
No, they're just hanging out.
It's a nice gesture, even if it did come after years of record-breaking compensation. Nonprofit organization As You Sow even ranked Bobby Kotick as the 19th most overpaid CEO in the world in 2020.
Way to go. That's a great title.
So while Kotick may be living paycheck to paycheck right now, he still has decades of industry-topping compensation already sitting in his bank account, not to mention employment contract clauses that would pay out extra should he be compelled to leave his position.
Everything is going Bobby Kotick's way, including this acquisition. Whatever. Anyways, there's another reason this pending acquisition stings more than your usual run-of-the-mill greedy businessmen getting another huge payday. California District Judge Dale S. Fisher recently approved a settlement between Activision Blizzard and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or the EEOC, for years of pervasive sexual discrimination, saying the settlement is, quote, fair, reasonable, and adequate, and advances the public interest. At $18 million, it hardly qualifies as a slap on the wrist at all.
Yeah, it sucks. That's 3 days and change of revenue from Call of Duty Warzone, by the way, according to analyst estimates, which is part of this whole deal, but neat. Activision Blizzard could probably lose $18 million behind the couch and not worry about it too hard.
And yet, that's all they have to set aside to pay out, quote, individuals who were employed from September 1st, 2016 to the present and experienced sexual harassment, pregnancy discrimination, or related retaliation.
Yeah, as part of the approved settlement, we also now have a glimpse at how the money will be handled and paid out. So what are the details there, Charlotte?
Well, there's a lot in there, as you can imagine, so I'll just hit the high points. The EEOC will determine who the approved claimants are and what their compensation will be. Any unused or unclaimed funds of the $18 million after 3 years will be allocated to charitable organizations dedicated to advancing women in video games or tech industries, or back to the Diversity and Inclusion Fund, which is under Activision Blizzard. Releasing the money back to Activision Blizzard is subject to EEOC approval, though.
Kind of feels a little scummy here. At least Activision Blizzard doesn't just get the money back for free, I guess?
Yeah, but if you want to feel scummy, just wait.
I don't want to.
Sorry, but you brought me on here. The most concerning section, and the one that the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing is so upset about, stipulates that eligible claimants will have all references of, quote, sexual harassment, pregnancy discrimination, or related retaliation removed from their personnel files. This action is what the California court claims would destroy their ability to pursue their legal proceedings against Activision Blizzard. Basically, California would have to step up for a chance to paddle Activision Blizzard, but there wouldn't be any evidence remaining since it all got broomed with the federal settlement.
Unfortunately, the courts didn't agree with California or the multiple motions they filed to try and stay these proceedings, as California District Judge Fisher ruled against the DFEH's multiple motions to block the settlement in this approval.
Oh, ostensibly, Activision Blizzard is still required to maintain records for all these incidents, and the settlement would just allow them to remove allegations of illegal activity from individuals' personnel records, meaning that activity wouldn't follow claimants around after they've received those compensatory damages.
That much makes sense. You get paid out. Theoretically, legally speaking, you're made whole. And then those complaints, which either you were related, like it's illegal activity that you're related with. So it's a good thing, theoretically, for people to have that removed from their personnel files so that they continue on with their careers without that hanging over them. But yeah, it sure does feel like it's a nice and tidy way for Activision Blizzard to cut a check and just erase everything from their history so it can never be prosecuted again under any jurisdiction or any court, which sucks. But theoretically, that's not what's happening here. theoretically. Then again, the DFEH has directly accused Activision Blizzard of withholding and even destroying evidence to prevent its investigation. So even if the settlement charges Activision Blizzard to maintain those records, it's clear that the DFEH doesn't believe that that will happen or that they will execute that in good faith.
That about covers all the latest legal news. I know it's all really confusing. You should read up on it for yourself because there's lots of stuff going on. Long story short, Activision Blizzard is cutting an $18 million check, and the California DFEH can go kick rocks.
Yeah, we'd like to see Bobby Kotick's ass to be a little more firmly smacked throughout this process, but this is what sucks. Currently, it doesn't look like there's a lot of pathways to those buns getting paddled. They're just gonna stay pure alabaster buns on the backside of Bobby Kotick.
The upside is that it sounds like claimants will be able to file and be paid in fairly short order, which counts for something when it comes to legal matters. It usually, takes years to get that stuff, so hopefully it'll come fast.
Yeah, it seems like it's going really quick. I think they're going to establish, like in the next 30 days, they're supposed to establish somebody to start accepting and overseeing claims and stuff. So it's good that it's happening so fast. Theoretically, the other upside here is that the best thing for any current employees of Activision Blizzard is for an entire management changeover, which is on the cusp of happening with the Microsoft acquisition. So theoretically, the faster that's approved and the faster that happens, the faster Bobby Kotick goes and lives on a yacht in international waters for the rest of his stupid life. And theoretically, the working conditions will get better for everyone at Activision Blizzard, which is what we want.
Here's the question, since that settlement is so small. This is kind of open to everybody here. Is it better to get people money right now, or do you pursue a longer lawsuit, try and get more money out of Activision Blizzard? I'm not sure.
Even with the changeover in management, it just feels like so soft a message is being sent to the industry as a whole, and basically just corporate America. Just the continuation and the furthering that you can just make these things go away in short order. So I don't know. I mean, I would love to see people get more money too, but I guess. I don't know. It's so hard to say. I just wish it had been more of a severe penalty for Bobby Kotick personally, and then also just in terms of like what is allowed in this country as far as like harassment goes. Basically,
it's so tough because you want the people who are responsible to get punished, and you want the people who aren't responsible to not be dragged down with them. But if you just bill the company at large, is that necessarily going to ricochet up, and are the exact executives who are responsible for this going to be held accountable? It doesn't seem like it, and the company's earned enough money that most of the investors and most of the board are happy with how things are going. So yeah, by the money and by the legal of everything, they did what they were supposed to do, as gross as that is. And yeah, that does speak to the state of worker protections in the United States. I scribbled out some math here. If Activision Blizzard has 10,000 employees, a recent diversity report said it was 24% female. That means that around 2,400 women work there, all of which ostensibly were affected by lower pay and fewer career opportunities. So let's say just only half of them claim damages. Even if theoretically every single one was affected, let's say half of them claim. If they're all rewarded equally, that's $15,000 each. Now that's supposed to cover all harassment back to 2016. So if a woman worked at Activision Blizzard that whole time, that's $2,500 a year, which is supposed to cover lower pay, lack of career advancement, and just outright sexual harassment in the job place. $2,500, that's nothing. $500 a month? That wouldn't even cover the lower pay you probably got. So there's no chance in hell that amount of money is going to adequately cover whatever actual money they may have lost, on top of whatever like horrible personal treatment that women there had to suffer. There's just no way in hell. So not only is the number is just ridiculously small, and it's weird to me that a judge thought that it was fitting and fine and served the public interest. Even if the number was doubled, it still wouldn't actually be that punitive against Activision Blizzard and the bankrolls that they have. But this is just dumb, man. Like you're trying to make up for the fact that for a half decade, a significant group of people had their entire career shortchanged. That's something that has ricocheting effects down the next 10, 20 years. That's job titles they don't get to put on their resumes. That's salary increases that they don't get to use to try to argue for better pay in other companies. So these things have knock-on effects that this is just completely ignoring. And that's what's ultimately frustrating to me, is that it's not just the one thing. It's the fact that it goes on down the line, and this settlement seems to ignore that.
Lawrence, you hit it nail on the head, and I've said this a bunch of times on Inside Games. I sued a company years ago for basically abusing overtime. They were supposed to be paying us overtime, and they were not. And I was with a bunch of other people. We sued a company to get that overtime. And we got somewhere in the neighborhood of about, I think it was like 5% of what the actual overtime was.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was no money. And by the end of it, I realized, oh, this is what companies do. They act in bad faith for years and years and years until somebody complains. And then once they complain, if they're brave enough to bring a lawyer, then they pay out. But they pay out at 5 or 10%. That's nothing compared to what they would have had to pay if they were actually acting in good faith. The bottom line is that's what it is. And that's how that company has made so much more money on these people than what they deserved.
It's a transaction. It's a trade-off. So,
correct.
Yeah, I don't know if a steeper bill would have traveled upstairs or hurt maybe people the less responsible, but like at the very least, if you take morality out of it, you would assume that if the price becomes more expensive to do this kind of thing, then hopefully they would behave in such a way that like it's not even at that point for the good of the employee, but for their own pockets, which is the only language you can speak with them, I guess.
It's a real bummer, and the bottom line is the company should have just acted in good faith to begin with. They should have just been a better company when people complained.
Well, we're not complaining about some wonderful patrons that support the show. Boy, I hope that was in good taste. Yeah, before we close out this episode, we'd like to shout out some of our patrons. Faisal Sharif, Kyle Smith, The Creatures with Nerds Brews Gaming, and Leonard Asp. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Johan, Christian Morgan Anderson, Rob Simming, and Baron5X. Thanks again for allowing us to yell at you about Activision Blizzard.
Just buy them already. Just buy them and let's move on, please.
Yeah, I know.
No more video games. Let's just call it.